your wine. It's time for Rosé All Day and Julie's a Mess, where we talk about current events and living in an intersex life. And now, here's Julie.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Rosé All Day on JustJulie.com with me, Julie Mayfield. It is August 14th, 2023, and tonight's podcast is all about a recap of the wonderful show that happened Saturday night at the Abode Theater in Savannah, Georgia, called Love, Loss, and What I Wore by Nora Ephron. And tonight, the cast is joining me. I had the privilege of being a part of that cast, and there were actually 5 of us that performed, but unfortunately our cast member Wendy Bowers is not with us this evening. She is feeling a little under the weather. We've invited other people that actually saw the show on Saturday night to join us this evening for a chat with the actresses involved. We're going to talk a little bit about what our performances meant to us. We had a roundtable a couple of weeks ago just to promote the show. And then I am happy to say that we sold out Saturday night. Ladies, we sold out.
Yes.
That's crazy. But we're going to go around and introduce the cast that's here one more time. There is an interactive chat available. If you are watching us currently, you can join in on the chat. But like I said, we're just going to have a recap of the show on Saturday night, what it meant for us to be a part of this production, and hopefully people will join and ask some questions. So let's go ahead and read a comment that our director has left for us. Bonnie could not be here tonight as well because she teaches, and the weeknights are a teaching night for her. But she wanted us to know that it was delightful to work with such an insightful cast. Each of you engaged the audience with your delivery and nuances. Have a blast tonight. Sorry to miss it live this time. Yay. Just to get us started, because nobody has joined us yet, what are some of our thoughts about Bonnie as a director? Let's just dive right in. What's it like working with her? If it was your first time working with her, talk about that. Let's just, put it out there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Anybody?
This is my second time working with Miss Bonnie. Whoop, whoop. She saw something in me, and I appreciate her. So I know her from Music and Arts. Shout out to them on the south side of Savannah. And she was my music teacher, my vocal teacher, and my piano teacher. So she saw something in me, and we were originally going to do a different play, and we couldn't get the rights to it. So we ended up doing Fireflies, which was an even better play that I thought. And it was a 2-person play, and that made me meet Levon. Like, it was like a lot of stuff happened around that time at the end of December of last year, going up until the date of our January performance. And we lit it up. People was crying in that play, honey. It was like really good. And he like, man, you were powerful. And we kept like vibing off each other. And I was like, oh, people thought I was acting already. Like I said, I just related with that character. And the funny thing about this one is I still related with the character. Like, I don't know how she's doing that, but just to chime in as far as like her knowing how to cast people properly. Mm-hmm. That's what I can chime in about. Like, she did an awesome job, and she's still doing an awesome job, and I appreciate her because this ain't her first rodeo, obviously.
Right. Yeah, I feel like the casting really shocked me too, just how well suited we were to all of the different parts. And it's a difficult play to break up. I mean, it takes a lot of artistic choices, including in those like in between scenes and stuff. And so it was just amazing to me to see how well she could turn those into scenes, but also tie us to characters. And I mean, like I get that one liner in the breast cancer story, but my grandmother just got diagnosed with breast cancer. So it just is like all these really just uncanny crossovers for me with a lot of the elements of the roles. And there's no way she could know that other than, you know, intuitive talent and that sort of ability to be like, yeah, that's you.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy too. And I had said that after our first read through, that it just felt like she just was like, oh, that's Julie, and that's Rebecca, and that's Anita, and Bonnie, and Wendy, that's perfect for her, and this is totally Yvette. And I thought, she a witch.
I know.
I feel like that was a really impressive part of the directing as well, that the parts that I received were so suited to how I speak, to the way I think and talk. And other people who saw it, who know me already, said that just sounded like you up there talking. And I think that was definitely true for my pieces. And then thinking about some of the ones that other people had, I was like, that would have been a hard one for me to do. I really don't think I could do the scene about the state senator, or talking about the paper dress.
You can't do a scene about getting fingered. What?
I'm just saying, I might have been a little uncomfortable doing that piece, but
and Rebecca was like, I would have
done it. I would have done it, but I was glad I didn't have to. And I feel like everybody did such a strong job. And having rehearsed together, before this, I felt like we had a really solid show, but I felt like we all kind of brought even more to it during the actual performance. So that felt really good. Yeah.
I think that's true about theater in general, though, whether it's a staged reading or an actual play. I think everybody rehearses, and you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse. And then on some level, and maybe Rebecca can even chime into this, because I know she does some we're all doing professional stuff, but like, you know what I mean? And so you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse. And then the night comes along for your performance, and all of that kind of, in a way, goes out the door. And you literally feel like it is your first time reading it, your first time in that first rehearsal space. And you kind of walk out there. I know for myself, literally, if we were off script, everything that we had rehearsed would have gone right out one side of and I would have been like, I don't know my lines. I don't know what are my lines. I don't know my lines. I do that even in television, when I will get a rewrite for a script and they'll say, remember, you have to hit your mark. So then your head is, oh, I got to go stand on that X to make sure that the camera lighting. And then I'm like, wait, what's the rewrite? And then you get to the X and you're like, hit the X, hit the X, hit the X. And you hit the X and you say the line and you're like, oh, I guess I did know it. But it's very like that. And so I think even in rehearsing it, I think your performance, I guess my point is, I get your performance is always going to be different and very nuanced, just based on the rehearsal time, and then just the atmosphere of going live.
Well, and I think that's something I completely relate to what you're talking about. And I think that really does speak to the director, the tone that they set, and to Bonnie specifically, is there is no way anybody could ever say that she will over direct you. Like, she has a lot of faith in you as an actor and in the group. And I think, like, on the last rehearsal, she's like, I know you guys are going to come alive on stage and stuff. And I'm like, that's a trust fall. But
even in the space, remember when she was like, can y'all all just be a little more excited about Black? And we were all like, oh yeah, sure. And it literally was like, what, 10 minutes before we went live.
Yeah. And it's like, it just, I don't know. It was really interesting because she's very light on notes. but gets the basics right, and then all of the details and all of the planning and getting the right space and all of that is just so absolutely on point. But then as an actor, you just kind of feel like you're hanging out in the best way. You know, you don't feel like lost, but and I think that is a really huge ability to be able to pull all of that off.
Anybody else? This was my first time working with her. So like I literally, I remember LaVon in a group earlier back in the early spring said, Savannah Readers Theater is thinking about doing this. They're looking for, I think the group I was in, it even asked for BIPOC actresses. And I was like, I haven't done anything in a while. You know, and so I really was like, I'm interested. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then she contacted me like in June and was like, are you still interested? And I was like, sure. And like, I didn't know what I was getting into. Right. And so but it was a wonderful experience. I hope that if I stay in Savannah, which is really up in the air right now, I get to work with her and all of you again.
It was fun. And I'm glad we got the feedback. Prayerfully, we'll hear some people's feedback. Anybody show up yet? Praise God.
No, I mean, nobody in the.
It is Monday.
It's okay. It's a Monday. People probably forgot. Yeah. We did get a lot. I mean, even standing in the reception line afterwards, you heard a lot of great comments from people. And I always feel like as an actress, especially as an actress, because we all know fake, we're actresses, right? I think you can tell when you're in a reception line or a waiting line if somebody's being genuine. And it's different from people just coming through like, thanks for performing, you know. And I think there was a lot of like really heartfelt response coming from the people that saw the show.
Yeah, someone used the word that it felt really relatable to watch, and that means a lot, I'm sure, to all of us, because it feels like, oh wow, you know, some of the scenes are not going to be necessarily ones everybody's experience, but the overall experience of being a woman, you can't walk away from the play and not feel that way. Though I do feel like it means a lot that they actually felt that from us, and that the performances were relatable.
Well, here's an interesting question I just thought of. Let's go around, since there are 4 of us here, since we're missing Wendy, which I just ran that tag again that she's not feeling well tonight, but we definitely want her to know that she is missed and included because she was a big part of this. Let's go around and we'll include her in this. So for each of us, Anita, we'll start with you because you're at the top. You will go around and you will say what your favorite part of Yvette's was, your favorite part of Rebecca's was, your favorite part of Wendy's was, and your favorite part of mine was. And then we'll just go around the room like that. We'll talk about each, and then we will go back and we will address for each of ourselves individually what part or what monologue was most heartfelt for us.
All right. I'm gonna just go to what's in my spirit first. So with Rebecca, I actually like I always get a little choked up when she was talking about it was my dress. It was my dress. And she does it. She kept going. She kept elevating it every time we rehearsed it. And she did, you know, I know she fell back a little bit, but it was still profound even in the actual performance. And I just like I just like her performance in general, but I appreciate that. Like I kind of felt that with her, because I kind of, I felt like I was in that scene with, like, as that little girl with her, and like mad with you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And with Yvette, I'm so proud of her. You know, I love the little sister, big sister scene.
So fun.
So that's how I'm gonna bring Wendy in with that. And then of course, the scene towards the end with Miss Julie. Of course, I love our scene, the Dora scene, of course. But as far as you having to be, of course, I like two. Of course, I like all of them, but the two that stood out with Julie was with when Dad had to leave when he bought those two dresses, and then when you had to talk about the death of your son, even after having all those husbands. So that's what kind of stuck out for me.
Yeah, that scene for me actually was one of the weirdest ones in all the rehearsal spaces. And then and Rebecca kind of knows what I was going through performance night, but when I got to that scene performance night and said, David, the hospital called and David had expired, I literally was about to just lose it performance night. And I don't know if that was because of what I was going through, which I'm sure that probably has something to do with it, but also just the levity of that. And I don't think I'd never really dialed into that scene during rehearsal, but that night, Saturday night, I literally let it just affect me. And if you remember, you probably didn't even notice. I noticed like I couldn't even read the next line, which was, I got this pantsuit from Spiegel catalog, because I literally was like, what, where am I? My kid just died.
Yeah.
And that's what that's when I go back to that line about you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse. And it all kind of goes out the window performance night. Okay, next. Yvette?
Yes. So I love Anita's delivery on all of hers. But there were two that really stood out. The purse is my favorite monologue. I just think they're just so to go back to the relatability, but that is my purse. That is my purse. So I just couldn't even, I'm sitting out there and I just start laughing when you're talking because I'm like, that just really is funny. And then I was like, oh, I don't think I was supposed to laugh. So anyway, that one. And then the bathrobe yours, right? The bathrobe scene just so painful to me. Just how that must have impacted those children to see her in that space and that same. And my grandmother had a similar house coat, so I have a visual of that, really clear visual of that scene. And then Rebecca's with the dress, my dress, and the line, "Shame on me, and shame on my stepmother too." So yeah, that was heart-wrenching to me. There's so many fun and sad parts of Julie's, like you guys were just describing. I really love it at the very end, though, when she's like, people wanted to read my story. Like, this was just my story. And I just thought that was so, obviously, that was kind of the bookmark of the whole play, right? Is how meaningful these personal memories are, how relatable these personal memories are to others. So that was one part in particular that stood out to me, in addition to the ones you guys just mentioned. For Wendy, I thought she was so good at portraying so many different characters. She had so many pieces in our pieces that she did so well. But the paper dress just haunts me. I have had experiences like that, and they're so horrifying. And so I could just feel the embarrassment coming up my body when she would do that part. And so, yeah. Did I say everybody? I think so. Okay.
You did, yeah. Rebecca?
Yeah, it sounds like we have a lot of shared moments. Okay, so working backwards from Wendy, I was gonna say that she added in all of this color throughout the whole thing. I mean, all of her different parts and lines, it was just another voice, another character, like really brought everything together and brought a lot of life to it. And yes, that scene, especially, she did it differently in On the night, and that last line, I will remember this on my deathbed. You
Yeah.
really believe it. You're like, oh God, yeah, seriously. And the whats. We had a lot of different versions of the what?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those were all of the versions were fun, but I think she just really did nail it on the night, especially. Then
What did she
Yvette,
say? What did her character say? You're apathetic, and you're like,
No,
yeah.
was it neurotic or you talking about with
she
the
says
shrink thing?
apathetic, right? As the therapist, doesn't she say at some point, "You're apathetic" or something?
Yeah.
Rebecca's like,
I was not remotely apathetic.
Such a great line. I loved that so much, that line.
Yeah.
and then that great zinger at the end where Rebecca's like, "Fuck you."
And I never watched to see how she took that. I never watched for the reaction.
Just hurry up and say it.
But I feel like performance night, y'all looked at each other. Like I was like,
Oh, that's too good. Yeah, so and then Yvette, I really loved doing the scene with you where we got married. I felt like it was really special, and
It was
really
so
felt
special.
like really loving when we were doing our vows, and I was really in the moment. And I when we get into what we loved the most about our stuff, I'll talk about that more, but that was definitely my favorite moment with you. There was something else that someone mentioned that you did, and it was so good. I can't remember. What were the other things we mentioned about your performance? That's exactly how I felt. Well, anyway, that was one of the highlights of the play.
The breast cancer scene, I didn't add that personally, but the breast cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that's a really hard one to do. And
when y'all did that together in a way, because your character, you chimed in on that and said, wear this and make sure you look really beautiful and wear this. And then, I mean, you had a part in that too.
And you had like such strength throughout that scene that because that character is kind of like, all right, I'm going to do this, but also like you're struggling with something. It's a very specific position to take on it and getting the tattoo and everything. And somehow you just really managed to embody what I probably would have found to be a bit of a challenging part myself.
It was a very challenging part for the obvious reasons that most of us have someone we've lost to cancer and breast cancer, which I have. Friends who have passed away at very early ages. Which I hadn't really totally processed it while I was performing, but the other piece of it was just worded so it was such a difficult wording, and the phrasing and how to stop and pause in several of my pieces. I just wanted to have the script and edit it so that I could say, okay, pause here, because they were just such long, complicated sentences. And I think I finally got it down, but I had to really practice some of those. I just felt like I was running out of breath. I had to figure out where to stop. And that scene was definitely one of those, and the weight of what it was about.
Okay, so now
and then Anita. Oh, I gotta do you guys.
Okay, I thought we did. Okay,
no, she didn't finish.
No, Anita. Obviously, that purse scene will probably go down in history for me.
Yes,
the memory of someone's performance and a scene and everything, and the audience is just eating it up. And I also really loved you as the sister. And your scene with Julie. I just feel like you have that perfect sass and that timing and jumping in and adding exactly the attitude that's needed to punctuate the thing. And so I think the purse shows that you're really great at monologue, because it feels like you're on a dynamic conversation, but you also really, really, really are very talented with back and forth dialogue. Yeah, it was awesome. And then it's for some reason the sweater thing comes to mind. I think you did it in a particularly interesting way or whatever this last time. And it makes me think of the theme of just replaceable women in these men's lives. I mean, we've got these mothers that are getting shuffled out and all of that. And so that was just a huge theme that for some reason really stuck out the way that you delivered that. So
yeah, I did change it up. I said I was gonna do something a little different this time.
Yeah. And then Julie, yes, those moments of when you, I was like, okay, Rebecca, keep it together with the son thing. And I also like on the like lighter note, because your humor is so extremely enjoyable. I mean, I think that in many ways kind of carries and balances out the darker parts of the play. Like you kind of keep us all okay.
Which, if you really knew me, I'm so super fucking twisted and dark.
Yeah, but that's how comedians are, right? Yeah. So anyway, but but also that scene between you and Anita, I love on your side as well. It is just too good. And the way that you are self-deprecating about like picking up all these husbands and all of that is just hilarious. But yeah, I think that I think the most like touching moment really did come at the end when you were talking about the granddaughter and like being remembered and you got like choked up and stuff. And I just found that to be really profound because it's something I probably won't have kids. Not that I'm against them, but just the thought of like, I've never been able to feel or imagine to feel that idea of the legacy to your children and them knowing you and passing down your grandmothers and your mothers. And I felt it as if I could relate. So I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, I had actually shared with my mom. I don't have kids or grandkids. And, but as a method actress, and somebody was like, I don't understand what that means. And I was like, okay. If I got casted next week on a television show where I've been in prison for 3 months, I would go take 3 months to go to a local jail and get incarcerated so I could understand how that feels. And that would come out in my performance. And that's what they call, method acting. And so I was like, I can't really do that because I don't have these experiences. So with that particular scene, my mother often talks about how one of her granddaughters, she does that with, and my mother has been going through some things with her grandkids and with my siblings, and so I just really drew from that. But that made it so much more real for me too, because I think universally, people struggle with being remembered. I think universally, everybody, whether you saw the show or not, whether you're sitting at home right now and watching this or you're not, whether you're at work or you're not, I think we all struggle with what happens when I'm gone and nobody remembers me. And everything that I've done in this lifetime is forgotten. And so why did I do it? Right. And I just think that is a universal thing that a lot of people struggle with and experience. And I think that's why there was such a connect maybe in that moment for people. Okay. So my turn. Okay, let's see, Anita. Yes, I really enjoyed the scene with us. I think I really enjoyed it because so much of it does mirror my life currently right now. I read a great meme yesterday that said, I am not a hot mess. I am a spicy disaster.
I love it.
And I literally was like, that was that scene. That was
Write it down.
Because,
disaster.
Dora is like, but Gingy. He's so sweet. Don't destroy him. But Gingy. Do you really want a big family but Gingy? So I just love the way you did it and that you played it. And I thought that was a just great fit. But it also carried through because every other time I mentioned Dora in the script, I pictured you leaning out the window and saying, hey man, you're going bald. I pictured you eating dog biscuits with me on a bus. It elevated everything for me. So that scene, yes. And your purse. But everybody's already talking about your purse. I think living in New York and knowing exactly what a $26 MetroCard bag looks like that was a highlight for me too, because you reveled in having a MetroCard bag that can get wet and is indestructible. And for any of us that have ever lived or been any amount of time in New York, we're like, yeah, the MetroCard bag, get that. Let's see, Yvette. Yes, the breast cancer one. I got to, more than anything, out of all your performances, I got to sit next to you. And I sat between you and Wendy. And so for the whole amount of time that we rehearsed, I got to feel your energy as a human, but also as an actress. And I could feel moments where you weren't sure in the script. I could feel moments early on where you were like, you know, I'm not feeling this. I'm not sure I can do this, right? But then performance night, you did it.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite scenes of yours is with Rebecca when y'all are getting married. And I remember performance night, which just absolutely just threw me for a moment, because I remember sitting behind you thinking, it felt like I was at the wedding. I mean, the whole performance felt like we are all the best of friends, like Sex and the City for the last like 40 years. And that we all lived this. So even at the end, when my character says, I gave a couple of binders to my friends, even though it mentions 2 friends in the script, I'm thinking I gave my binder to Anita and to Yvette and to Rebecca and to Wendy because they've all lived this with me.
Yay.
And so sitting next to you that night, you turned, and I don't know if other people know, other people that watched the show wouldn't have noticed this. I noticed it, that we had been like writing our book through every rehearsal. We were all just reading, right? Reading, doing our thing, reading, making notes, reading, doing it because it was reading. But then Saturday night, sorry, my teeth are not glued in tonight. Saturday night, a lot of us weren't looking at the book. And during the wedding scene, you legit turned to Rebecca and said your vows without looking at your script.
I was like, oh no, I don't remember mine.
You were supposed to practice your vows. We were getting married forever.
Yeah. But then she turned and looked at you and did
the person that
you did it. You did it.
You did it though. She turned to you and she said her vows without looking at the book. And I just remember in that moment watching both of you. And before I'd never really thought about the aubergine buttons and the maroon dress and her looking like a Christmas tree. But performance night, I literally was just watching the two of you, and it felt like I was there. It felt like I was watching you get married. And then as a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, I got emotional because I know what my community has gone through just to be able to have that moment.
Yeah.
And so for me, Yvette, watching you in that moment, I just thought, like, I was so proud of you. Now we're going to go to this little Rebecca Holly's dress, all this other stuff over here.
Can I just respond to what you said real quick before we go on?
Yes, absolutely. Make me cry and I'm terminating.
I did practice that line so that I could look at Rebecca because I felt like it needed to be done that way. I'm sorry I didn't think to like discuss that with you in advance. It might have been helpful.
I didn't know if you had or not. I was like, did they?
I was memorizing as you were going.
That is my favorite line. Eggplanty maroon. Eggplanty maroon, because that's the moment where you go, wait, what?
That's the color of your backdrop, even.
And right before, I know, it's my favorite color too. So
we should get married.
We could. And I really want a slinky tuxedo. So anyway, I wanted to do it that way. And I think in the last rehearsal we had that you had looked at me during rehearsal. I feel like you did. And maybe I'm misremembering that, but I wasn't at the very last rehearsal. So anyway, I wanted to have it because it's not exactly the same as what every wedding says, because it says partner for life and it's just slightly worded differently. And I really loved how it was worded. And that was really special to me. In addition, my mother-in-law is lesbian, and she has had her partner, Claudia. They had been partners for like 30 something years. They are 80 years old. They have decided that they are going to get married. So this has been a recent discussion in our house, unrelated to the play, and this has like been really similarly overlapping. And so that's felt special to me because of the many people I'm friends with who I've gone to weddings, or we've talked about this issue. I was on my campus, in my campus office at Armstrong the day the Supreme Court decision came down, and I was holding hands and crying with a colleague who was gay, who never thought this would ever happen. And so it's very powerful to me to get to be part of that script in that moment. And I was really grateful that I got to do that.
And just funny that it affects people in the way it affects people, because do you know what I mean? And so,
Julie, can I jump in on what it means to me while we're on the subject, and then we can skip over me later?
Mm-hmm.
So I am pansexual, whatever you want to call it, but I fall in love with women sometimes. And I have struggled with that in my life because my parents are the most loving people ever, but that is one of the abominations of life. And I had a really hard time crossing over. I could get used to the attraction element for a while, but I had a really hard time crossing over to accepting that I would love somebody or have like that special love relationship with somebody, and that wouldn't make me an abomination to humanity, and strangely it for some reason it did live in me that way. So this was, I have recently been able to witness myself a little bit more in my relational connections to women and the ability to be romantic with them. And also this was a really special, just like ceremonial thing of like, I've never thought about marrying a woman because all the reasons. And it made me feel this. I also love the comparison of the two mothers. I mean, that seems really special to me because it's how I would. My mom is very similar to that character, but she wouldn't do that at my wedding. So it's like a really special moment to be like, oh, this is what can happen if a parent really shows up for you versus one that doesn't. And so that was really special to me because it's like changing history. But it just was like this really poignant moment to be really present in that for myself. And then I'm always just amazed at actors who can, show up fully and be really feel like in love kind of connection when that's not even what I understand to be, your primary or your sexuality. So from anything you've shared. So yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing scene, and it was really special to do with you. And I just feel like you're a very loving, accepting person who really cares about what matters in the world. And I think about you all the time. So not in that way, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, genuinely, yeah. So thank you for that.
All right. I didn't bring tissue. Backstage assistance, please.
And I'm gonna finish with my Rebecca thought, and then we're gonna go back to our favorite part that we both each liked. For those that are just joining us right now, though, real fast recap. We are talking about the performance that happened this last Saturday in Savannah of Love, Loss, and What I Wore. It was a staged reading done by the Savannah Readers Theater, directed by Bonnie Janine, and I can't ever say her last name. And I don't know why. I can't say it. And then, and it was Saturday night, and we are talking to the cast and recapping our performances. We're currently talking about things that we liked about each other's performances, and I'm going to go ahead and finish that out. But I wanted to share this cast photo of all of us from Saturday. Look at us, all of us from Saturday night. And then we will show a Vogue picture a little bit later at the end. We have ladies, let's go ahead and say hi. We have a joiner. We have a watcher.
Yay!
Hello.
Hi.
It is LaVon.
Yay!
Hello.
Who was responsible for our marketing and helping get the word out
Good
about
job, buddy.
this performance. He has some questions. Some we've already answered about like audience reception when they're leaving. We've already touched base on that. But we will get to one of his other questions I just pre-read while Yvette and Rebecca were talking. Okay, so we will get back to that in a second. And then, so Rebecca, going back to you and your performance, there were a couple. Every week you would elevate, and it was fun to watch your artistic choices every weekend in rehearsals because you made very clear cut. As a fellow actress, and how we always hear about directors, even in theater, saying make a choice and stick to it. Every week you would make a very distinct, clear choice in how you read each scene. And so it was very fun as an actress to watch you pick those choices. I don't always do that. I kind of go, oh, this worked for me last week, I'm going to phone it in this week. But it was very nice to watch you do that. And a lot of you did that. Anita did that as well. But it was very nice to see you make those clear artistic choices each week. That being said, the night of the performance, I thought you sounded completely smug and in the moment. And I loved every bit of it. When you say at the end of your lettuce monologue, I'm a state senator and he's a life coach and nobody would ever know, and I'm like, that just sounds so smug. And when you said it, I literally was like, that's every swinging couple in Savannah. That's every couple I've met that happens to be a swinger in Savannah. State senator, life coach. Nobody know.
Offline juicy drama.
Talking about roughage and fingering in jail. That performance, loved. For whatever reason, that struck me performance night because I was like, gosh, you sound so smug about it. But it made it very laughable for me. Mm-hmm. And then I love the scene with you and your therapist. Because I think a lot of people, and I think that resonated for me because I think so many people seek out therapists and therapy thinking this is going to be a cure for how I'm feeling in my life. And that scene with Wendy was a very clear cut of, I sought out therapy. I absolutely 100% did not agree with what she was telling me. Mm-hmm. It was better for me not to have therapy in the end. The therapy ended up being the therapy, more or less. And so I love that line at the end where you literally say, and fuck you, I got rid of my therapist and got a new one. And I'm like, I wish more people would go, yeah, I don't agree with you. I'm going to get a new therapist. And so many people don't. So many people go, oh, well, my therapist said I should go on this and I should do this and I should stick my head in the sand. And you basically were like, that's not going to work for me. Fuck you. So those two scenes resonated for me.
I'm probably very much like that with my actual therapist. I say, all right, you're going to withhold. It's a man. That is a new experience for me. He's great at it.
I kind of want to know who you go to.
Okay, I'll tell you offline. I'm like, you are going to withhold judgment for a second, or you're going to hate this, but you're going to have to get on board. So anyway, yeah, but I do think that one does have to wrestle one's therapist. But I think what's cute about that is I didn't catch until probably 4 rehearsals in that at the end she gains weight because she's happy, just like the therapist said, which is that classic little zinger of like, sometimes the therapist is not helping you at all, but they might be right about a little bit of it. You know?
There might be a reason they went to school to become that therapist, right? So now let's just go around and let's talk about, as individuals, what really resonated. It's 7:44 and we can go a little bit over, that's fine, but let's really talk about what really resonated with your own performance Saturday night. So what's something that really maybe in rehearsal it didn't, maybe it was that one thing that you're just like, okay, we're almost done with the show, but really talk about maybe for you as an actress, what piece really resonated and affected you Saturday night?
I think we touched on it. To be honest, I do want to just say to Rebecca, thank you for sharing that. And the unlayering, and it's good. Like, that's how we're getting to know one another. I needed to just personally needed to hear that. And I think Julie, she's gonna be candid no matter what. That's her. I appreciate y'all. So that's that's how it was eerie as far as casting us, because it actually we actually did resonate. That's why I was like, I don't think I'm acting for, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I'm going outside the box too much. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, for me, she was spot on. I'm gonna just be honest with everybody. She was spot on with pretty much all of my characters. Because I am that friend that you either gonna love me or you may hate me type of friend, because I'm gonna keep it real with you because I love you. I'm a loyal friend, but I'm also be honest. My facial expression ministry, it like I may not say it, but my face and said it already. So I'm that person, and yeah, like, okay, as far as like for me with the gang sweater, that's just like the story of my life. Like, you be thinking that somebody feeling you, and you didn't gave it up too fast or did something too fast, and you don't see him no more. That's kind of how like I resonated with Gingy, because that happened with her, one of her characters. Like, she gave it up, and when she probably told him that she had a pregnancy scare, he ghosted her. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was because it deals with a lot of the self-esteem, how we esteem ourselves. And that's why we had a lot of loss, because we fell in love so fast. You know what I'm saying? And it just resonated, with a lot of things, because I do trip off of what I wear, and it gives you either confidence or it may bring you down. So depending on what you have on, because we're mindful of us just being women in general. You're mindful, like, is my hair okay? Or did I put on enough lip gloss today? Or, you just making sure that you're presentable in general. And that's why I think I didn't say nothing about Wendy's character, but I love the bra thing. I love that scene. Yeah, because I basically, with each one of our monologues, they did a great job. Kudos to the original people that did this play.
Nora Ephron and Delilah Ephron.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. But yes, kudos to them. I couldn't get their names right real quick. But the way that they did it, I envisioned everything. So I'm a visual person. So yeah, I was like literally there. Like I felt like I was right there. If it was like in the 90s real quick, I was there when we was voguing, and we was, we, like, she's talking about, she said, I kissed some gay dudes. I kissed the girl and I liked it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then she just said that that's how she relates. So you know what I'm saying?
That scene, though, I have to say, that scene, even on that Saturday night, that scene, it felt like, because we were all looking at each other.
Yeah.
It literally felt like not 2 Halloweens ago, we had gone out as Madonnas and we loved it. And I was like, that's something that girlfriends love, right? They remember those memories of, and in that moment, I was like, she sure did make out with a bunch of gay men. So did I. So did Anita. So did I. Like, I felt like we were all there doing, like, and it just felt like the night went on and on and on, and we were all sitting there and just reveling about it and laughing about it, and it felt, and that's what acting is, really. But I think sometimes those kind of lightning in a bottle moments happen between ensembles. I mean, it really felt like we were telling our collective life Saturday night. It literally, for me, felt like I'd known all of you for 50 plus years, and I remembered every outfit that you were talking about, and I remember seeing you in every outfit. I remember your mother making that peach strapless gown, and one of my favorite scenes at the end when I say, and I gave the books and they got published, and I didn't think that they would mean anything. I think my favorite scene in the whole show is actually us just going back and forth and saying, my poodle skirt, my jeans with the embroidery on them, you know, and for me, and maybe that's that character, right? Maybe that's that Gingy character, because she instills having those outfits and collectively what they mean to everybody in their lifetimes. But I mean, I even remember the little things that are not part of my monologues, like Rebecca saying a Mexican off the white blouse and a pink skirt that you can gain 5 pounds in. And I thought those dotted the whole night, you know, but then like I felt like I could see all of those outfits. And I could see each of you in them. And it just felt like collectively we had experienced Yvette going through cancer and Rebecca bouncing up and down in her spruce green tree Christmas dress. I felt like I was in the kitchen when your stepmom came down in the blue robe. And I just felt like I know all these stories because I was there for all of them. And even though in our script it would say Holly's story or Gingy part 2, and we'd have it crossed out and it'd say Anita, in my brain, even as an actress, I was like, oh, Anita's going to tell us about her stepmom in the blue robe. And now we're going to hear about Yvette going through breast cancer with her pearl earrings. And now we're going to hear about Rebecca jumping up and down in front of Rabbi Mendelssohn or whatever. And I just kind of felt like we'd lived it.
Yeah.
And Bonnie is not responsible for a lot of that, which is one thing. I mean, it is us. Like, I love you guys, but she brought us together. She let us play in rehearsal quite a bit. I mean, we had a little house cocktail.
She got us drunk every Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, and she let us relax and get to know each other and share a lot of personal details, and was not like, we got to get right on it right now. And I noticed that, and I realize, especially now, how much that pays off to let us bond and experience each other and have fun together, because it really does create that.
Well, and let's not forget, I mean, not that anybody else needs to know this, but we all were going through stuff even in the rehearsal phase. And ironic that it would be about love, loss, and what we wore. And Yvette, you know, right at the end, you end up losing somebody that's meant a lot to you. Not to bring that up, because I'm not trying to like put you on the spot, but just a lot of people talk about life imitating art. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about how, like, I'm going through relationship problems. And in the show, I go through 4 husbands. And, you know, we're all talking about love and loss. And you're going through loss and grieving. And Anita and I've talked about things that she's going through and being unfaithful. And I just thought, it hits home a little close. It hits home a little close.
And I think that is the power of the show, is that it represents so many experiences that are so specific, so detailed that you can see the scene in your mind, but are so universal to what women experience. Maybe we haven't all experienced everything in the show, but we've all experienced some piece of that. And we've also gotten to the chance to talk as a group about what's not in the show that is also representative of our experiences, right? I mean, it's not all encompassing, and it's very dated of its time. It's still powerful, but there are things that would be different if it were written today, I think.
Of course.
And while I really loved performing the show, what I really loved was doing this with you. That was the best part. Okay. That was definitely the best part.
It was fun. That's why I said it. I don't drink like that, but I said I can have a mocktail, or you know what I'm saying, like it's a little bit of wine. It's nothing against that, but I'm that person where people think that I'm drunk because that's the type of person that I am. They probably think that I
What? Never.
You're drunk, or you're
People think
You know my
I'm
favorite-
high,
They
so-
probably think I smoked a little couple of blunts. before I
Anita,
got
my
out.
favorite thing that you ever said during rehearsals is when Monty put out all those like goldfish crackers and Cheez-Its and everything else, and you're like, where's the scoop? And people are like, scoop, and you're like, to like scoop the crackers out. And people are like, just use your hands. And you're like, okay. You still took a plate and like folded it and like scooped it up.
That's
love
just me with my little bit of OCD. I'm like, okay, I get it, but
We are coming up on the hour mark, and
Yeah.
we're still doing okay on time, but Lavon asked 3 questions in the chat. We actually covered 2 of them already, kind of in a roundabout way.
Mhm.
But I like this question. He said, having to explore, I'm going to post it right here.
Okay.
Having to explore so many emotional extremes in such a short time span.
Mhm.
Were any of you a little exhausted or overwhelmed after the performance?
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Black.
No, Black.
So I will answer first on this one. But I was exhausted because of other things that were going on this past weekend. And I'm still a little exhausted, to be honest. And the show for me was a breather.
Mhm.
It was a breather and a break for me.
Yeah.
It still felt like something I needed to do. Hashtag, I'm going to share something with every other young actress that's watching. When your director says the night before, go home, be hydrated, get a lot of sleep, listen to that.
Listen.
I went out Friday night, dealt with a ongoing bad relationship, drank a little bit too much tequila, and spent all day Saturday morning praising the porcelain god. And by 3 o'clock, I was like, now I have to get up, put makeup on my face, and make it look like I can still function as a human being to do a performance tonight. So I absolutely was exhausted for poor choices because what? I'm not a hot mess. I'm a spicy disaster. However, let's go on from that. Who else was but the play itself, yes. So many levels. I think that totally added to why I busted down about David dying and being married 4 times and glue sticks and fuck. And like, I literally almost, at one point during the show, and none of you know this, I literally almost, because somebody didn't show up that I was expecting to show up, I literally almost just slid off my chair and walked out of the building. And so it was emotional for me. And the piece was anyway, but I mean, everything else was too. So yes, Lavon, it was emotional and I'm exhausted. Next.
I was exhausted. I had practiced a couple days. I tried not to over practice, but I did want to be able to look up and all of that and get the words in my mouth and all of that. And kind of have those all the things. So I had kind of gone over it a few times the days leading up and had sort of like a prep day, if you will. The opposite of Julie. No, I can speak well to getting a good night's sleep. But I found that, I always, I never was just waiting for my next line. I made an effort to live out each moment of everybody's performance with them, which made it really special. But I did that every time in every rehearsal and in every moment. I really was just imagining everything happening. So, I think one of the responsibilities that it felt like we had for the audience was to interpret the ability to switch back and forth among the emotions and help them figure out this is a funny moment. through our timing, delivery, whatever, our reactions, and all of that. So that was probably was tiring, but it's the same thing as watching something too, where in a way it's cathartic as well. So it's a little bit of both. But I remember the next day I was like, oh my God, I'm like having trouble emotionally regulating. I'm so tired. I'm whatever. And I was like, oh, you just did that play. And it's like
and then I dragged you to the cemetery.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, the cemetery grounded me. Yeah,
It grounded me too. But did you hear? Did you see what I tagged you in today?
No, I haven't looked.
So yesterday morning, you know how we showed up at Bonaventure yesterday, and we were like, "How weird that one of the gates is closed and they have all this construction stuff around."
Yeah.
Because Sunday morning, literally right before we showed up, somebody drove through the Bonaventure Cemetery sign, jackknifed over the curb, went through the Jewish entrance. God. It destroyed the car. And then when they showed up to the accident, there was no driver. And they looked all over the cemetery and they can't find a driver. And the video is all over Facebook. And I thought, that had just happened right before we all showed up.
Wow. I am really freaked out.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons of what you just described.
Yeah. And then my whole brain right now is, are they still in the cemetery? Did they not find them?
Are they real?
The irony of the fact that
going down a path, but
Woo.
Okay, who was next? Anita's like,
Well, I'll go. Well,
because it'll mess with my spirit. So I'm like, I would overthink that, but I'm praying in Jesus' name. But yeah, that kind of just threw me for a loop. I didn't know nothing about that, but I envisioned everything you just said, and that's what kind of just did something to my heart.
When you see the video, you'll be like, but we went to the cemetery yesterday. My cousin was in town. They had come to see the show. I think some of you had met them.
They were in the front row and they were so lovely.
Yes.
They had such great responses. It really helped.
They do. I love them very much.
Yeah, they were great audience members, I have to say.
Great audience members. And Levon had actually said he was surprised that they didn't all stand up and give a arousing, thundering amount of applause. I don't remember. Maybe they did. I feel like they did. I don't know if
I think they clapped, but I think it wasn't clear that we were finished.
Correct.
It felt like
I felt awkward too.
Close it somehow or something. It was like they were expecting us to keep going, and then we just stood up, and they're like, "Wait, is it over?" That was my interpretation.
Yeah. No, that I agree. I thought Bonnie was gonna close it out. I don't. Maybe. Yeah, that was that's a side note. Maybe sometimes I may be like a space cadet. She probably said exactly what we were supposed to do. I did do my part, and I got on up.
We got up and bowed.
I stood up and bowed, and then I'm like,
I let us astray. I didn't let us have the pregnant pause where we all stand there and sit there and stare, and everyone knows we're done. I moved us too quickly into getting in front of I led the team.
But it's okay.
It worked out. People seem to have a good time.
They enjoyed
it. They figured it out eventually.
Right. On that note, a lot has just been said in the past 3 minutes. Praise God. What was the original? So many emotional extremes because.
Were you overwhelmed at the end of the performance?
This is the best answer I can give y'all. I enjoyed it. Like I was in the moment. Now I can say a comparison to what I did earlier in the year to this. It is comparing apples to oranges because we had a lot of stuff going on back then, me and Levon's character, but this was like more people involved and having to digest it right then and there, like boom, boom, like how we had to vote, okay, somebody died, somebody, I'm like, so you got to just keep at it. So I think that's kind of what he's talking about, our facial expression. Like we were actually genuinely concerned about each other.
Yeah, that's what he says here. I noticed how all of your faces either lit up or fell, depending on what your castmates were going through.
Yep. That's the best. I think he hit the nail on the head. I think I said that saying right. Yeah. And I was engaged. Like when it was, of course, I'm next to Rebecca, right? So I'm like, okay, it's her turn. So I'm like, I was the audience of one. I feel like I was the audience of one. I didn't care about them. I mean, I do. Sorry, guys, I do care about y'all. But as far as us giving it, it was about y'all.
But because that just goes back to that feeling that we all lived it, and that we've been friends for 40 or 50 years, and that we've experienced life together. And that's what I meant. It felt very much at points in Saturday's performance. It felt like we were just kind of sitting in a coffee house being like, hey, Yvette, remember when you survived cancer? And hey, Rebecca, do you remember when you got that really gaudy engagement ring that said lettuce on it? It was all about this guy that had, rough edge being introduced back into his diet. Like it just felt like we were all like just
different,
sharing that all over. It literally felt like a full circle coming of us just getting together, as so many women do at the end of their lives. And we've seen so many movies about this too, where women come together and reminisce about their life together and the importance of not only the characters and not only the clothing and not only the stories, but the combined life lived among us, and what a connection that means. And that can happen with male friendships. It can happen with genderless friendships. It can happen in all aspects of life. But you're kind of reconnecting what LaVon is saying and what we've all kind of talked about tonight, which is that thread of us just being so connected through the story, right? It's like when Yvette said earlier, everybody pulls from it because it is so tangible in its work and in its essence. And the fact that it literally felt, there were moments Saturday where I didn't even notice the audience. I mean, I did. You knew they were there, but it literally felt like we were just connecting and sharing, listening to Wendy in the paper dress and the bra and again, and I shared this with you going into the performance Saturday night, as an intersex woman, I haven't been aching to some of those experiences. The first time I put a bra on, it was when I thought I was a drag queen and I just needed something to hold my extra flesh bags on the front of my body. And now I have.
Did they have the balloon
boobies? And I feel like Aunt Babby. Now I feel like Aunt Babby. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, she's got some big boobs. But like, I didn't. And so even to watch some of you go through those experiences and to listen to that, I felt so connected to you individually, each of you, to listen to you go through those. I thought, okay. And it didn't deflect from my performance. If anything, it added to my performance because there were also other moments that I felt like you would connect with or that you have connected with. So
it was amazing to have you, like, I feel like in many ways you were more of a woman than like any of us. No offense to anyone else, but in many ways it's just like you made me more aware of what it's like to show up as a woman in the world. And I don't know, performing this with you is kind of like, and maybe it's the play, maybe it's everything, just gave me a little bit more of an appreciation for the form that I'm in, and being like, you know what, there's some really hard parts to it, but it also is a way that we can express ourselves in these ways or that ways. And it's something that's shared. And I would just say there's like it would never even, like, it just never even crossed my mind that you just didn't have these experiences, because it feels like you've been through it all with us, so like forever. So yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I agree on so many levels. So when you, I don't want to say drop the bombshell, but
I mean, look, talk about it. That
I'm just saying, like, I'm glad I did my research, and I just didn't know, like, it's basically.
So we can say it after our first podcast a couple of weeks ago when we were promoting the show, I felt led to share my intersex story with my castmates. On some level, I felt like I didn't feel fraudulent. I just felt like they needed to know. And I would do that with any cast that I was currently in, because part of being in a great production, anything, is just having full faith and trust in your in your ensemble and your cast. And I just felt like, I think on some level they were wondering, and I think on some level they may have been guessing, and I think on some level I am steadfast in my advocacy for the intersex community, that nobody should be left wondering, that if we don't tell our collective stories, people won't understand and perceptions won't change. And for everybody that knows me from Just Julie and outside of the theater world, that has always been my lead in. And so I shared with my cast after the podcast ended a couple of weeks ago, my truth. And so now that's what they're kind of talking about. So if you didn't watch that podcast and you didn't already know me, now you know, and you can listen to them say what they're going to say.
But no, it made me research you more, and I appreciate and that's good, like just uncovering, because it's a lot of stuff you don't know about me. But then as you were speaking, then it led me to open up about my former life as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it gave us vulnerability, of course. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I liked about this, because this is vulnerability at its best. For us to talk about all these stories, still feel the way that we're feeling, still even be truthful tonight that we're going through some sugar honey iced tea. You know what I'm saying? Like,
write that one down too.
Yeah, and that's my little play on words.
What did you say? We're going through some. What'd you say? Say it again for everybody.
Sugar honey iced tea, honey. What I said, I can't.
Some sugar honey iced tea.
Yes.
I feel like that needs to be on a t-shirt.
I have 2 new phrases going forward.
Yes, honey. But I'll just say I thank the Lord for all of you guys. It's like I was telling Julie, nothing's by happenstance. It needed to happen the way that it happened. And I appreciate that. Y'all don't even know how much y'all are giving me life by sharing your life on screen and not on the screen. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for you to do it all the time, Julie, that actually inspires me, because I'm in a season where I'm trying to come out of my shell. Because a lot of times people are like, well, you should be a social butterfly, but that's not me. I love to be like that, but if you put me in front of a camera, I'm like, But then as soon as I get in front of a camera, I'm like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But it takes some courage, you know what I'm saying, to do that. And I appreciate you, because I'm be honest, that's why I appreciate Levon. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out all these different letters in the community, and I'm trying to have compassion, because coming from my community, I don't want to hear that Rebecca saying it's an abomination. It's not an abomination, because me being angry, that's an abomination. Me gossiping, that's the truth. Like, I get it. I'm just going to say, I get everything on every level. And I thank the Lord that he took me to different places of my life to be able to say, I get you, Julie. I get you, Yvette. I get you, Rebecca. I get you, Levon. I get you, Miss Bonnie and Miss Wendy. I get you. Even though I'm younger, I still get you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand, because I do have an old soul. I probably was here before. I don't know. But I thank God that he took me around different cultures, different people groups. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to be like just closed off and be closed-minded about certain things. So when I was saying, okay, what's that? Like, I didn't know. And I'm glad that I do know, because I was always wondering, is that what the I means of it? You know what I'm saying? Now that, but that's just me. I'm that. It take me a few years to figure it out, but by God, I got it. and I'm glad that I did, because some people was using a very negative term about
which by the way does not exist in humans. By the way,
I'm not even going to say that
happen in humans.
Yeah, so I don't even want to talk about what the negative connotation was, but I thank God that I can be amongst the circle that it happened, and you got other stuff going on top of that. So it was like, oh my gosh, she's strong. Like the strength, and it's strength to let somebody know your vulnerability and to be authentically you at the same time. Because I'm gonna be honest, like that's what people love. That's why you got your following, because of your authenticity. You know what I'm saying?
You told us, you hadn't gone into great detail about it, but you told us you were intersex on day one, and I just remember thinking, like, I just somehow, I mean, you know, you and I have talked offline, but I just felt like this enormous sense of belonging, and you have this luminosity and this strength and this, like, you just take up a room and you are like a star. And so then it's just like, it makes something that a lot of people don't understand the same level that you are, of this luminosity. And I think it really helps that you share that, because it suddenly, it changes the definition of that for people. I knew about it and stuff, but yeah, so but and like I was saying, you have lived now for a little while in the form of a woman, and I feel such camaraderie with you in that, and I feel such camaraderie with you as a human person that exists so far beyond anything that we're all try to limit ourselves as. It makes me feel larger.
Man, I feel like a woman.
That's gonna lead us. Yvette, did you want to say something? I'm not trying. This is not supposed to be let's praise Julie hour.
Well, I was just going to reinforce what Anita said, and that is that the more we have the opportunity to interact with people who don't have the same experience as our own, it's really powerful. So I do feel like that was part of what this play did for me, was to bring me together with other women in my community who I didn't know already, who have these just amazing spirits and talents, and I'm just glad to be part of it.
That's a great segue. And I love being in this with all of you as well. That's a great segue into two things that are going to finish the show for us. So first is a comment coming in from Levon that says, it was very remarkable watching 5 leads perform on stage. I've seen clips of Hollywood celebrities perform this piece as an ensemble, and even they didn't appear so distinct from one another, yet so unified as all of you.
Oh,
thank you.
Also, one of the highlights, which we've already talked about from the performance, was the Halloween that the 5 of us all dressed up as Madonna. And we talk about it in this great scene where we all talk about how when Vogue would come on, we would all pose. And so after the show, our cast took a final pose in our Vogue poses.
Yes.
And so this is our cast in our Vogue poses, right? All doing the Vogue thing. And we want to thank each of you for joining us tonight on this wonderful recap of Love, Loss, and What I Wore, the performance that took place on Saturday, August 12th, 2023 in Savannah at the Abode Studios. And thank you for joining us this evening. The cast will hang out in the green room a little bit longer as we end this podcast and broadcast tonight. Remember, you can follow justjulie.com for more content from myself, Julie Mayfield. And of course, we will always stay abreast on what each of these women are doing in their lives moving forward. Thank you for having a wonderful hour and 19-minute discussion with us. And we will see you in Savannah soon. Love you.
For more content, follow justjulie.com. That's just Julie, JULEIGH.com. Thank you to our guests, and thank you for joining us this evening. Join us next week as Julie tries a different rosé.